They taught you about the Tulsa Race Massacre in school, right? Maybe you saw a documentary or heard about Black Wall Street getting burned down. Tragic story. Terrible riot. Moving on. But here's what they didn't tell you. Calling it a riot was the first lie in a century-long cover-up designed to protect one of the darkest truths in American history. This wasn't chaos. It wasn't a tragic outburst of racial tension. It was a coordinated military assault on Black economic power. And the people who destroyed 35 blocks of Black wealth made sure you'd never learn the real story. They changed the words. They buried the bodies. They erased it from your textbooks. And they did it all to hide one terrifying fact. When Black people built their own Wall Street under Jim Crow and got too powerful, white America burned it to the ground. Today, we're exposing exactly how they got away with it. June 1st, 1921, 5 in the morning, Tulsa, Oklahoma. A whistle cuts through the darkness. It's not a warning, it's a signal. Within minutes, thousands of armed white men pour into the Greenwood district like an invading army. They're not angry, they're organized. Many of them were deputized the night before by the Tulsa Police Department. They've got badges now, legal authority to do what they're about to do. They move block by block, house by house, business by business. They loot first. Cash registers emptied, jewelry boxes dumped into pockets, furniture loaded onto trucks. Then they torch everything. Within hours, 35 to 40 square blocks are burning. The Stratford Hotel, the largest Black-owned hotel in America, worth $75,000 back then, gone. The Dreamland Theater, where Black families watched movies on Friday nights, ashes. More than 600 Black-owned businesses, incinerated. 1,200 homes, destroyed. And the bodies? Historians estimate between 100 and 300 Black people killed, shot in the streets, burned alive in their homes, murdered after they surrendered with their hands up. The official count they put in the newspapers, 36. They lied about the body count before the smoke even cleared. But here's where the story gets darker. After the killing stopped, Tulsa police rounded up every Black survivor they could find, over 6,000 people. They marched them to detention camps at the fairgrounds and convention center, held them like prisoners of war. You want to know how long they kept them locked up? Some for 8 days. And you couldn't leave unless a white person, usually your employer, came and vouched for you. Think about that. Your neighborhood just got burned to the ground. Your family might be dead. Your life savings are ashes. And now you're in a camp, waiting for your white boss to come claim you like property. This wasn't just about destroying Black Wall Street. It was about reminding every Black person in Tulsa exactly where they stood. Now let me take you back a few years so you understand what they destroyed. Greenwood didn't just appear out of nowhere. A man named O.W. Gurley started it in 1906. He bought 40 acres in North Tulsa and made a promise. He would only sell property to Black people. That was radical. In 1906 America, Black people were supposed to stay poor, stay scattered, stay dependent on white folks for everything. Gurley said no. He opened a grocery store, then a hotel. Then he convinced other Black entrepreneurs to move to Tulsa. By 1921, Gurley was worth somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million. That's 15 to 30 million in today's money. For a Black man in Jim Crow, Oklahoma, a man named J.B. Stratford came next. Built that 54-room hotel I mentioned. Another Black man, A.J. Smitherman, started a newspaper called the Tulsa Star. Dr. A.C. Jackson became one of the most respected surgeons in the region. Even the Mayo Clinic praised his work. And here's the key detail they never taught you in school. Black dollars circulated in Greenwood up to 19 times before leaving the community. 19 times. You spend $1 at a Black-owned restaurant. The owner uses that dollar to buy supplies from a Black grocer. The grocer pays his black employee. That employee gets a haircut at a black barber. That same dollar keeps moving, creating wealth every time it changes hands. That's how you build generational wealth. That's how Greenwood became Black Wall Street. And this is exactly how they get away with it. By the way, if you want more hidden stories like this, subscribe to Black Stories Untold. Now, back to the video. Here's what white Tulsa saw when they looked at Greenwood. Black people living better than poor white families. Black people owning property. Black people sending their kids to nice schools. Black people building a parallel economy that didn't need white approval. And it made them furious. Because the whole system of Jim Crow was built on a lie. That black people needed white people to survive. That without white guidance and white jobs and white charity, black folks would fail. Greenwood proved that lie wrong every single day. So when the chance came to destroy it, they took it. The excuse they used was a 19-year-old shoe shiner named Dick Rowland. On May 30th, 1921, Rowland got on an elevator in the Drexel building. The operator was a 17-year-old white girl named Sarah Page. Something happened in that elevator. Page screamed. Rowland ran. The most likely explanation, according to historians, is that Rowland tripped getting into the elevator and grabbed Page's arm to catch himself. That's it. No attack, no violence, just a stumble. But by the next afternoon, the Tulsa Tribune ran a front-page story. Nab Negro for attacking girl in an elevator. Some witnesses claimed there was a second piece, an editorial that said, "To lynch Negro tonight." No one's ever found a copy of that editorial, but it doesn't matter, because that's what happened anyway. By evening, a white mob surrounded the courthouse where they were holding Rowland. They wanted to lynch him. The sheriff, a man named Willard McCullough, refused to hand him over. So a group of about 25 black men, many of them veterans who fought in World War I, showed up at the courthouse. They were armed. They offered to help protect Rowland. The sheriff told them to go home. They left. But they came back an hour later because the white mob was getting bigger and louder. And that's when someone fired a shot. No one knows for sure who fired first, but most eyewitness accounts say it was a white man. Doesn't matter. The violence exploded. White rioters started shooting into the black crowd. Black men shot back. The fighting spread to the edge of Greenwood. White mobs started setting fires. And Tulsa police? They didn't stop it. They joined it. The police chief, a man named John Gustafson, later got convicted of negligence and conspiracy. Think about that. The chief of police was found guilty of conspiring in what happened next. Police officers started deputizing white men off the street. Hundreds of them. Maybe more than 500 in less than 30 minutes, according to some reports. They handed out badges and guns to the same people who'd been shouting about lynching a few hours earlier. They gave them legal authority. And then they waited for dawn. That whistle at 5 in the morning, that was the signal. The invasion of Greenwood was coordinated, planned. Witnesses described white forces organizing in all-night cafes, mapping out the attack. They came in from multiple directions at once. They had rifles, shotguns, pistols. Some had machine guns. And here's the part that'll make your blood run cold. Multiple survivors reported seeing airplanes flying over Greenwood, low, dropping something that looked like explosives, firing shots from above. Now, some historians debate whether the planes actually dropped bombs or just did reconnaissance, but survivors swore for the rest of their lives that they saw it. Mary Parrish wrote about it. Mabel Little described it. In 2015, the National Museum obtained another written eyewitness account describing bombs. Even if they were just flying overhead to spot targets, that means this massacre had air support. Let that sink in. American citizens used military tactics, including aircraft, against other American citizens because those citizens were black and successful. Dr. A.C. Jackson, that brilliant surgeon I mentioned earlier, tried to surrender. He walked out of his house with his hands up. They shot him dead in his yard. The Tulsa Star newspaper that A.J. Smitherman built, burned. He had to flee to Chicago. They indicted him for inciting a riot. J.B. Stratford also got indicted and had to run. The people who built Black Wall Street became fugitives. The people who burned it down got badges. By mid-morning on June 1st, 35 blocks of Greenwood were gone. The all-black hospital, gone. The library, gone. The schools, gone. More than 1,000 families left with nothing but the clothes on their backs. 10,000 people homeless. And then came the cruelest trick of all. Insurance companies refused to pay. Almost every single claim filed by Black Greenwood residents got denied. Why? Because the insurance policies had something called a riot clause. If your property was destroyed in a riot, you didn't get a dime. And that's where the word choice became a weapon. See, if they called it a massacre, insurance would have to pay. If they called it a racial attack, or pogrom, or a coordinated assault, insurance would have to pay. But if they called it a riot, nobody gets paid. And that's exactly what they did. They framed 18 hours of organized racial terror as a spontaneous riot where both sides were equally at fault. That lie saved insurance companies millions of dollars. It also meant that Black families who lost everything couldn't rebuild. They had no money, no compensation, nothing. Some families left Tulsa forever. The ones who stayed had to start from zero. Meanwhile, white Tulsans who participated in the massacre, not one of them went to prison for murder. Not one got convicted for arson. Not one faced justice for looting. A few months after the massacre, an all-white grand jury investigated what happened. Want to know who they blamed? Black people. They said Greenwood residents caused the whole thing by showing up armed at the courthouse. And this is where everything connects. Because the cover-up didn't end with insurance fraud and a rigged grand jury. They erased Tulsa from history itself. For 50 years, the massacre basically disappeared. It wasn't in textbooks. It wasn't taught in Oklahoma schools. Even people who lived in Tulsa didn't talk about it. Black survivors were too traumatized and too scared. White participants didn't want to admit what they did. The city government didn't want to look bad. So they all agreed on silence. Generation after generation of students grew up never learning that one of the worst incidents of racial violence in American history happened on American soil. They learned about the Chicago fire. They learned about the San Francisco earthquake. But a massacre that destroyed 35 blocks and killed hundreds of people? Erased. Oklahoma didn't even mandate teaching about it until the early 2000s. Let me say that again. It took 80 years before the state made it required learning in schools. And even after they added it to the curriculum, most of the coverage was surface level. A few sentences, maybe a paragraph. They still called it the Tulsa Race Riot in textbooks well into the 2010s, because calling it a riot keeps the lie alive. Here's what that lie protected. If you erase the story of Greenwood, you can pretend that Black poverty in America just sort of happened naturally. You can say Black communities struggled because of cultural problems, or lack of work ethic, or poor choices. You don't have to admit that every time Black people built wealth, white mobs and white governments burned it down. Greenwood isn't the only example. It happened in Rosewood, Florida in 1923. It happened in Wilmington, North Carolina in 1898. It happened in East St. Louis in 1917. There's a pattern here. Black people create economic independence. White people destroy it. Then white people blame Black people for being poor. That cycle depends on you not knowing the history. That's why they buried Tulsa. Because if you knew what really happened, you'd start asking dangerous questions. Like, how much wealth did Black families lose across all these massacres? What would those communities look like today if they hadn't been destroyed? How many Black millionaires would exist right now if their great-grandparents hadn't been robbed and burned out in 1921? Those questions don't have comfortable answers. So they deleted the questions by deleting the history. And they almost got away with it forever. It wasn't until 1997 that Oklahoma finally formed a commission to study what happened. 4 years later, in 2001, that commission released a report. They confirmed everything: coordinated attack, mass killings, government complicity. The report recommended reparations for survivors and their descendants. The Oklahoma legislature did nothing. Survivors filed lawsuits. They got dismissed. In 2024, 3 survivors took their case to the Oklahoma Supreme Court. The court threw it out, said too much time had passed. Then, in September 2024, the Department of Justice announced they were launching an investigation. In January 2025, just weeks ago, they released their report. It's the first time the federal government officially examined Tulsa. The DOJ confirmed everything. The massacre was coordinated, racially motivated, enabled by local authorities, and one of the worst incidents of racial violence in U.S. history. But the report also said there's no way to prosecute anyone. Every perpetrator is dead. The statutes of limitation expired decades ago. There will be no legal justice, ever. Right now, crews are digging at Oak Lawn Cemetery in Tulsa, searching for mass graves. They've been searching since 2019. In 2024, they found 42 more burial sites. They've identified 2 victims so far using dental records and military files. 2 people out of hundreds. Most of the bodies were probably thrown in the Arkansas River or loaded onto railroad cars and dumped somewhere. We'll never know all their names. We'll never know exactly how many people died. And as of January 2025, there's only one known survivor of the massacre still alive. Her name is Leslie Benningfield Randall. She's 110 years old. She was 7 when she watched Greenwood burn. Everyone else who saw it with their own eyes is gone. The generation that could testify to what they witnessed is almost extinct. And the people who did it? They lived full lives. They died old. They never spent a day in jail. They never paid a dime in restitution. Some of them probably told their grandkids they were heroes who stopped a race riot. Here's the grand payoff you need to understand. The Tulsa Race Massacre wasn't just about destroying buildings or even killing people. It was about sending a message to every Black community in America. Don't get too successful. Don't build too much. Don't forget your place, because if you do, we'll burn it all down and then blame you for the ashes. And the cover-up, the deliberate erasure of Tulsa from history, that was about protecting a second lie, that America is a land of equal opportunity where anyone can make it if they work hard enough. Greenwood proved that even when Black people did everything right, even when they built wealth and educated their children and created thriving businesses under the brutal conditions of Jim Crow, white America would destroy it the moment it became a threat to the racial hierarchy. That's the truth they couldn't let you learn. Because once you know that truth, you can't pretend that the racial wealth gap just happened by accident. You can't say Black communities failed on their own. You have to admit that Black success was systematically destroyed, and the destroyers rewrote history to make themselves look innocent. They called it a riot so they wouldn't have to call it what it was: terrorism, ethnic cleansing, a crime against humanity that this country never punished and barely acknowledged for 100 years. And even now, when the truth is finally coming out, there's no justice, no reparations, just reports and apologies and empty promises. They stole everything from Greenwood. Then they stole the memory. That's the dirtiest cover-up in American history. Not just what they did, but how they made sure you'd never know about it. This was Black Stories Untold, and as always, thanks for watching. If you want more stories like this, click the video on your screen now.